Hi folks, my name's Kent Hovind. I was a high school science teacher 15 years.
Well, this was inevitable, wasn't it? Good old Kent Hovind. Only about 2 of those 3 things are in fact facts, but father of Eric, mentor to Matt Powell, and all around the granddaddy of terrible attempted science refutation via bibble babble. And just plain not being that much of a big smart. Let's see what we have to suffer through today with our first crack at him. And his terrifying thumbnails. Seriously, that empty smiling face, it's like he looked up how to put humans at ease before consumption. I mean, it is a good book.
And I love studying about the Bible and what the Bible teaches in regard to science.
Oh, I know this one. It's Sweet Jackal, at least in terms of anything that we consider actually scientific. It has baffled many to this day how you managed to trick an entire school for 15 years into believing that you know anything about science. As the science from your many lectures out on the internet, well, you must have gotten that education off the back of a packet of gum. And what you remember from that could be written on the world's smallest postage stamp that's been cut in half and burned.
God said very clearly that he made everything in 6 days.
Well, God is a filthy liar. I was there, and he quite clearly didn't make me any kind of tasty beverage. I had to get it myself. He is a terrible host. Well, when he claims to be busy. Also, as scientific claims goes, that's a big no-no. Because it's literally just a claim without evidence that I'm going to have to say didn't happen. And you know what? Even if it did, do you know what's always confused me? God am all-powerful, right? So why did it take him more than an instant? You know what? That whole book is looking pretty sus at this point. Let's chuck it out and start again. I'll go. In the beginning, there was Sir Sick, and there was also whiskey, and Sir Sick did look upon the whiskey, and it was good, and then somehow it was all gone, and Sir Sick did the big sad, and blew up the universe. That's a way better story, because it's got an explosion in it.
Now, how could you show the age of the Earth?
With science? And no, Ken, not the fake science you purport to study, and that you claim to have taught to some apparently very, very unfortunate kids. Christ, imagine the brain melt. No, I mean real science, the kind of science that produces things of value in their respective fields. I'm going to ask you the same question as I asked to the flat earthers of the world. What, if anything, have you and or people who hold the same quote-unquote scientific beliefs as you, what have you produced in terms of scientific achievement? What have you done that can make useful things like predictions or products that didn't exist until you did your brand of science at it? I bet I know the answer, but I'm interested to hear what you might have to say.
I think the very best evidence of what some people call a young Earth is...
If he says anything other than non-existent, I think we are just going to have to admit that he's a lost cause. Not that we didn't already know that, but I just like saying it. You're a lost cause, Kent. Oh, shit. Spoilers. Sorry.
God said he did it in 6 days and nothing died until Adam sinned.
Translation. The best evidence for the age of the earth, according to Kent, is because Bible, though. Sorry, not sorry, but anything you tell me from within the pages of that archaic, translated to the point of meaningless, and that's after it was originally gibberish book, is not something anyone with even vaguely, genuinely scientific mind and perspective will take seriously because, and get this, Kent, the Bible... it's not a textbook, and almost nothing in it is proven to be 100% true other than there were people in the past. Almost like it's some sort of pseudo-historical storybook or something.
And Jesus said that was the beginning of the creation. So the best evidence of a young Earth is the Bible.
Oh good, he admits it. Now, what is the best evidence that the Bible itself is factually accurate in any way, shape or form? Is it nothing? I think it might be nothing. Who knows? Especially when you consider that we know the approximate age of the Earth, and even really low-tier estimates using very accessible forms of dating put it many times the 5,000 to 6,000 nonsense-estimate that you lot give it from the Bible. So nice try, come back again when you have some real evidence.
The Bible, certainly the dates in Genesis 5 and Genesis 11.
Oh, what? He's not going? In fact, he's carrying on with this line of, well, I want to say reasoning, but that would involve some... reason. His line of garbage. His garbaging. Yeah, that's what he's doing when he invokes the Bible in any argument that isn't about what the Bible has written in it specifically. And even then, like I said, translated to heck, so even that's not a guarantee of being correct.
Clearly add up to about 6,000 years for the total age of the Earth, 4,000 BC.
Clearly? I mean, that's not clear. This graph is far too majestic for anything as mundane as clarity. Seriously, you made this video in 2021. Where in the name of all that is whiskey did you get such a 1995 looking graphic? How much is the betting that this is right out of his old seminars from back in the day? Now there's a series of videos that could give me a lifetime of sustenance and pain.
That's never been refuted. Some people don't want to believe that.
Now see, I don't want to give Mr. Hovind too much credit, but he's actually being kind of clever here, because what he just said is technically true. The biblical age of Earth as presented in the Bible does appear to be, as he said, a few thousand years old. But that's not what he means. He means that the Earth being that old hasn't been refuted in reality, which in one way, yes, it absolutely has many times in many ways, but in another, that's never been an accepted fact that even needed to be refuted.
But the best evidence, I think, of what they call, I don't think 6,000 is young, I think that's pretty old, but...
Kent, if I told you someone was 750,000 times younger than you could only come to the conclusion that they were extremely young. 6,000 years compared to the over 4.5 billion years is such a big difference it's almost comical. In geological timescales, 6,000 years is less than nothing. The young Earth creation idea of Earth is absolutely categorically young, and any other assertion to that fact is so ludicrous it borders on gibbering insanity.
The best evidence of a 6,000-year-old Earth is the Bible itself.
The Bible is to evidence as chocolate is to cement. You could build a house out of it, sure, but in the light of day the whole thing would just come crashing down. And the less said about trying to use cement as a snack, the better. I have lost more teeth than I care to admit that way. If only it weren't so delicious.
But then you can look at almost any branch of science. You can look at the science of living things, biology.
Somebody stop him! He's going to try to science. What incredibly silly / irrelevant thing is he going to say? Who knows, who cares, who dares to wonder? Answers being everyone else, only him, and me, for reasons I will never quite understand. Probably because I hate myself.
And you'll see that the population of the Earth today is growing, but if you do the math and go backwards in time...
A population's density is not biological science. And for the love of God, and for the love of Christ, Kent, what you're about to say has been refuted more times than, well, you have actually. It's that dumb.
You can make everybody on the planet from 8 people getting off a Noah's Ark 4,500 years ago.
Except, that's not how anything works, Ken. Your idea of, oh, if we do the math, is completely refuted by the population numbers we have. For a large portion of human history, population numbers are relatively stable until the last few hundred years, and then they absolutely explode for reasons that have nothing to do with the Bible. Are you seriously telling me no one has explained this to you, or are you just that ridiculous a humans that you don't understand it? That or you know and you're a liar, but I wouldn't say that out loud.
But I'm certainly thinking it loudly.
If man's been here for millions of years, why aren't there a whole lot more people?
Because apparently you never studied the Industrial Revolution, which, considering it's one of the most important and, I'll be honest, boring, but it was a big deal things to happen in human history that literally changed everything about how human society works, including its ability to sustain much bigger populations. The fact that you don't know that is completely and utterly unsurprising to me, because you either didn't learn it on purpose or you really are that dumb. I am curious which.
Population is a great indicator that man has not been here for millions of years.
Millions of years? Kent, do you bother doing any research? I mean, come on, man, seriously, it's not that difficult. Homo sapiens, as a species, have likely existed for a few 100,000 years, not millions. I do not know where you even got that number. I assume betwixt your buttocks, much like everything else you say. But yeah, they could have, 'cause again, look at the chart. Mankind stable for thousands of years. That's a very slow and expected population growth. Are you going to say anything in the video that isn't staggeringly wrong? Don't answer that.
When you look at the genetic load that's increasing in the gene pool of people, you say, wow, this can't have been going on for a long time, not millions of years.
The genetic load. I don't know about you, but there's only one load going on in this video, and it contains a large quantity of DNA. Kent's DNA. Talk about poop. It's a poop joke. Because it's spewing forth from his mouth for literally every second that he talks. So I am, in fact, doing you all a massive favour by over-explaining it, because I am just a really lovely guy. Anyway, back to pain.
You can look at the sun. The sun is burning up its fuel source. Obviously, it's burning, and it's shrinking because of its burning up its fuel, and it is not only shrinking, it is throwing off 5 million tons a second. It's losing weight.
I don't know if that number is correct. I mean, it's you, so I kind of doubt it. I've said it before about others, but Kent's the kind of guy that if he told me that the sky was blue, I would have to go and check, then get my eyes tested, and then check again. But assuming that is correct, so what? You want us to think, oh my god, that's a big number! But in cosmology, that might as well be a grain of sand. For one thing, the sun is incredibly dense, even denser than you can. So while that might seem like a lot, it just isn't compared to how massive the sun is. It can afford to lose matter at whatever rate for literally billions of years.
Well, if your sun's been losing weight for billions of years, if you get back in time in your imagination.
Ah, imagination, where Kent Hovind gets all of his facts from. And boy howdy, does he have an active one.
The sun would be much heavier, making gravity stronger, sucking all the planets in.
You know, there was a point where it had a maximum size, right? And yeah, most of the early debris from the solar system would have gone into the sun or into other planets as they managed to find a stable orbit. That's kind of how it works. And what are your numbers anyway, Ken? Funny you say, oh, this is wrong because I say so. And yet for some reason can't provide any data to back that up. Almost like it might prove you even more the fool than life already has.
You cannot have the fine balance between Earth and Sun with it just being in the right habitable zone for millions and billions of years while the Sun's losing weight so fast.
It's not losing weight fast, Hovind, you moron. It's losing weight at incredibly slow pace from a human perspective. Like seriously, humans have existed on this planet for an absolute blip on the cosmological timescale. You could all have come and gone in a fraction of the time it takes for the amount of mass the sun has lost to actually come close to mattering. And God willing, you will be gone sooner rather than later, because damn, you are an annoying lot.
Well, you look at the moon. The moon's going around the Earth, but the moon's getting further away from the Earth. Okay? Well, that means it used to be closer.
And what's the betting that Mr. Hovind is going to miss out a really key aspect to this little moon-moving fact? Not to mention again, on the old space boy timey-wimeys, that it's completely meaningless to anyone alive today, or hundreds of thousands of years in either direction, because duh.
If you bring the moon back in closer, you get higher tides. And at some point, you get too close and they snap together like two magnets.
Except the moon's distance is also accelerating. Do you know what that means? That means it used to be slower. And at some point, it used to not be there at all. Because honestly, you, Kent, you ignorant baboon masquerading as a man. Who am I kidding? Any of the greater apes would be infinitely smarter than Kent. And some forms of newt.
Called the inverse square law. You can look at the stars in space, you can look at the living things on Earth, and look at the Earth itself. The Earth is spinning, but it slows down.
Well, first off, don't pretend you know what the inverse square law is. I don't for a second believe you understand how to tie your shoes, let alone shit like that. And second, all of these things moving apart, sun losing mass, Earth's rotation slowing, it sounds to me like God didn't make a perfectly balanced universe, as you and your book constantly claim. It's weird how you can't inverse square law those two ideas together and get that he's not actually real.
I give about 30 different scientific indicators for a young Earth on my seminar part 1 on drdino.com. But to me, the very best evidence that the Earth is 6,000 years old is exactly what God, he's the guy who did it, he said
absolutely nothing because he doesn't exist. And no, Ken, you are not a doctor of dinosaurs or anything else, no matter what your diploma mill qualification says. I might stop calling you Mister if you change your name to Dr. Dumbass, though, because that has a certain ring to it.
That was the beginning, when he made Adam and Eve. Matthew 19:4, Mark 10:6. So I would encourage you to read that Bible. Never been disproven.
Neither have the Lord of the Rings books, 'cause no one needs to, 'cause they're clearly fiction. But just watch some shithead in 2000 years bang on about them as if they were written by a prophet. Now, you know what? That's not going to happen unless we rewrite them in crayon and put it through Google Translate a couple of hundred times so that we can get its true meaning.
And think about it, man, this is what it says. Maybe God is right. Maybe the earth is 6,000 years old. That's plenty of time to accomplish everything I know of on the planet if you allow one big flood in there to make the canyons. All right, thank you for joining us.
Oh, for f***'s sake, he just throws that in at the end to make sure that everyone knows he is a total idiot. Although, do you know what? I think Ken might accidentally be one of the greatest educators of all time. Because everything he says is so wrong that it actually causes an idiot like me to go look it up and actually learn something.
Wait, before you go, I have something super important to tell you. It's life or death. It will change everything forever. Nope, wait, it's gone. Oh well, probably wasn't important. But while I have you, don't forget to comment, subscribe and notify. And if you want more of my smexy voice, check out Mrs. Six's channel Spoonstar Stories, where I narrate and voice all the videos, and she does the work. And if you want to support the channel, check out the merch store for cool t-shirts, or check out Patreon, memberships and PayPal to support directly. Finally, follow me on the medias of social to get completely pointless guff and to keep up on the latest releases. Oh, I just remembered what I was going to tell you. Whatever you do, don't touch the